one of the diagnoses is going to be CLL. Another one that can have the same thing is a mantle. Mantle also can have a aberration of CD5 associated with CD20. But mantle have a cyclin D1. Mantle also going to have very aggressive tumor. Usually they're not like this. There's lots of mitosis. So that's very important. CLL, CD5 here. Another stain you can do CD23. They're positive, but CD5 is the one that helps you. Every time you have a co-expression of CD5, two disease, CLL, mantle. Mantle have a cyclin D1 also positivity. In your CD, there is a picture of mantle, but we didn't talk about it, but I'm sure Dr. B talked about it. Mantle cell lymphoma is very important because of translocation 1114 and because of that cyclin D1. Mantle, usually, they put it in this group low grade, but mantle lymphoma is not a low grade lymphoma. It's a very aggressive lymphoma. If you look at it, there are lots of associated mitosis. They usually widely spread, and the patient's sick. CLL, patient don't have any symptom. Most of the CLL we diagnose in this hospital, the patient comes for something else. We do CBC, the lab called clinician and said, oh, this patient has 60,000 or 70,000 lymphocyte. And when we look at it, peripheral blood, they're CLL. We send the flow cytometry, they're monoclonal CLL. So most of the time it's symptomatic. They don't have much symptom, okay? Follicular lymphoma comes with the lymphadenopathy, so you know what's CLL now. Lots of time you don't have anything. They just come, mantle, the patient's sick. Those are aggressive. MALT. This is the one that is associated with H. pylori. It can be associated with Hashimoto. Yesterday I mentioned that. Can be with the chronic inflammation of salivary gland. So it can actually arise from any chronic inflammatory process, including the stomach, is that H. pylori. What's interesting is one of the characteristics, you're going to see these lymphoma cells and they're attacking this gland. So these actually, what we call it, lymphoepithelial lesion, is a hallmark of these MALT lymphoma. So this MALT is the extranodal marginal zone. The cells actually similar to marginal zone lymphoma. But what is the characteristic is these lymphoma cells, you can see this collection of these that attacking this gland, we call lymphoepithelial lesion. Remember, lots of time you take care of the H. pylori, this disappear, unless they're associated with certain translocation or already produce mass or tumor.
I'm sorry, that term is called
lymphoepithelial lesion. Lymphoepithelial lesion. So that's characteristic for if you want to highlight it, you can do immunostain for them. You can do stain for these are mature B cells that highlight them inside the actual gland. One of the translocation, about 30% of MALT lymphoma associated with translocation 1118. And that's also sometimes they ask, so translocation 1118 can be associated with the MALT lymphoma. The another translocation can be associated is a BCL10. BCL10 is the one that if the patient doesn't respond to for example, H. pylori treatment, so you need to do chemotherapy, so they become resistant to just the regular, H. pylori treatment. Yes?
This a little, I guess, before, but how can I tell the difference between mold and graft versus host when it affects the mucosa?
Graft versus, well, if you think about graft versus host disease, it's impossible you see this much of the inflammatory cells there.
Okay.
That's one of the characteristics of graft versus host disease. We're going to talk about it if there is a time. Graft versus host disease, you're going to see just a few cells.
Okay.
So MALT lymphoma, first of all, these cells are quite abnormal looking with the nucleoli and everything. And then you can see actually here, these are all lymphocytes. These are all tumor cells. Graft versus host disease, you're going to see few lymphocytes, but mostly you're going to see a collection of apoptotic cells. Apoptosis actually is one of the characteristics that you see over there. And one of the characteristics of graft, you don't see lots of cells. That was the actual reason. That was something mentioned in CD because those are usually a cytokine-mediated damage there.
Okay.
So we're going to talk about one T-cell lymphoma. Most of them are horrible, peripheral T-cell lymphoma. This one is actually good. Mycospongoides, the reason we're going to talk about that is because the presentation almost looks like an eczema, dermatitis, okay? So usually it's involved the skin patch or plaque, and one of the characteristics is these cells actually have a dermotropism, so they love to involve these epidermotropism, and you see this collection of the cells that we call it dupoitrate abscess, that's the name for this. And when you look at the cells, they have these very, very cribriform, clover leaf type of the nucleus. That's also something that they may ask you. Only other lymphoma can have a very similar nucleus is the HTLV1, adult T-cell leukemia lymphoma. That's, kind of presentation is different usually. So those, and you can do serology for those. These have these cerebriform cloverleaf nucleus, and these love to involve the skin, and they come with the skin patch. So the prognosis is very well, and unless they spread. If they spread, become systemic, what we call it? Sézary syndrome, okay? But as long as in the skin and composed of these dupoitrate abscess, the prognosis is very well. Last, Hodgkin lymphoma. One thing about Hodgkin lymphoma is very important. Hodgkin lymphoma defined by special neoplastic cells, we call it reddish tumor cells. This is a typical reddish tumor cells. It's a binucleated, it's kind of all eye with these two eyes. So you can see, so one thing about Hodgkin lymphoma, most of the time the presentation almost always associated lymph node. And their involvement is a contiguous involvement. The young individual come with the involvement of like telling you, oh, well, I have like this, bump here, and now I see it here. Okay, I see it this side. So contiguous, goes from one side, involved, goes down. So it's very much involved lymph node after each other. So, and what is important about this, if you look at the lymphoma, the reason the lymph node enlarge is not the increased number of reddish tumor cells. As a matter of fact, these tumor cells are minority of cells on that lymph node. So you may not find them easily. But the reason why lymph node enlarge is all these other reactive cells around, which they are not neoplastic. That's the reason lots of times you see a plasma cell, you see eosinophil, especially you see lymphocyte, and these reactive cells, they actually cause the lymph node enlarge. So very important to find these reddish tumor cells to make a diagnosis. Without them, you cannot make a diagnosis. So there are two main types. There is a classic variant of which has a 4 subset, and you already know. One of the subsets is this, we call it mixed cellularity. Another one, which is the most common one, is a nodular sclerosis. Another one is a LP and LV, lymphocyte rich and lymphocyte depleted, LR and LV. Okay, so all these 4 that are classic, in different, amount, they are associated with EBV. Okay, some of them more, some of them less. For example, mixed cellularity, about 40% associated EBV. Lymphocyte depleted, about 90% associated EBV. So one thing about these all classic ones, some association with EBV. Second, the reddish tumor cells in all classic are stained for CD15 and CD30. So 15 and 30, and these reddish tumor cells, originally all of them are B cells, but they're usually stained, not a regular B cells marker. So 15 and 30 is actually a stain. So you can appreciate mixed cellularity. You have these few tumor cells, and rest of them, these are all reactive. None of these are tumor. This is a tumor, these lymphocyte, these are all reactive background, and that's the reason the lymph node is large. So this is the most common one. This is the one that asks you a question. This is a nodular sclerosis. Have an excellent prognosis. Usually come as a mediastinal mass. So if you think about lymphoma as a mediastinal mass, pretty much it's 3. One is a nodular sclerosis. Second one is a TALL, and third one is diffuse large B-cell lymphoma. These are 3 mediastinal mass actually comes under lymphoma as main one. This nodular sclerosis is quite common, has a very good prognosis. The reason I call it nodular sclerosis is because you're going to see these nodules that separate this band of fibrosis. One of the things that they ask you about nodular sclerosis is the type of reddish tumor cells. When you look at the type of reddish tumor cells, they are different in nodular sclerosis. They have a specific pattern. When you look at it, they're variant. They have all this space around them. Okay, so when you have this space, we call it lacunar. Okay, lacunar, not reddish tumor cells, and that's they may ask you, but it's still going to be 15 and 30 positive. Next one is the non-classic one, which we call it nodular lymphocyte predominant. So we already talked about some of the classic one. We showed you mixed cellularity, nodular sclerosis, and we said nodular sclerosis, mediastinal mass, good prognosis. But nodular lymphocyte predominant, that's the non-classic. Nodular lymphocyte predominant is, again, can be presented with all these lymphocytes and actually can be a nodular, but they don't have a fibrosis like a nodular sclerosis. And one thing about them is very important. The type of Reddish-Sternberg cells you see associated with them, we call it popcorn Reddish-Sternberg cells. Now, for the nodular LP, they are not associated, nodular lymphocyte predominant, they are not associated with EBV. And the staining you do for Reddish-Sternberg cells is CD20 and CD45, okay? So for all the classic 15 and 13, for these 20 and 45, they are not associated with EBV. Again, these are also have a good prognosis, but best prognosis is nodular sclerosis. That has the best prognosis. So done with these. 20 and CD20 and CD45. That was the last one, nodular lymphocyte predominant, NLP, okay? Classic one, all of those are 15 and 30. Done. Done with this one. Okay, what time you have? Okay, so I think I can, what should I do? Should I,
Oh, we're doing back to back.
He's not here yet, so we can just start.
Start? Should I start? Okay. So we're gonna talk about immune system. The thing about the immune system is very important. Is first one is the type of the hypersensitivity reaction you need to know. Let's see. Type of hypersensitivity reaction you need to know. First case we're talking is actually contrasting two oddly